Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. We all have them, dull old t-shirts hanging in the back of the closet that we need to donate or throw away. Why not replace them with new vibrant graphic tees from Into the AM, the sponsor of today's video. Into the AM has some of the most amazing graphic tees I've ever seen. I receive compliments on them whenever I go out. They really stand out with their vibrant and expressive designs. My closet was overloaded with old tees that had cracked and faded over the years. I'm replacing many of those tees with graphic tees from Into the AM. If graphic tees aren't your thing, Into the AM also has some of the cleanest basic tees to perfectly complement your wardrobe. They support their products with a 30-day money-back guarantee, hassle-free returns, and lightning-fast shipping. And from March 24th through the 28th, Into the AM is having a huge clearance sale of up to 95% off select items in their store. Now has never been a better time to freshen up your wardrobe with awesome new tees from Into the AM. Use my link in the description and make sure to take advantage of their clearance sale going on now. A big thanks to Into the AM for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Everett, piloting Kaalia of the Vast. This is a mid-range deck that uses its commander to cheat big creatures such as Razakath onto the battlefield or use powerful spells such as Ad Nauseam to generate value and win the game. Everett's opening hand contains an Ad Nauseam, Wheel of Misfortune, Necropotence, Talisman of Hierarchy, Vampiric Tutor, Skirk Prospector, and an Arid Mesa. Next, we have Alex, piloting the partner pair of Haldan, Avid Arcanist, and Pako, Arcane Retriever. This is a teamer mid-range deck that wins the game by taking infinite turns and beating its opponents with a giant dog. Alex's opening hand contains a Floated Strand, Winds of Rebuke, Deflecting Swat, Scalding Tarn, Pact of Negation, Spire Garden, and a Mana Ball. After that, we have Tyler, piloting Godo, Bandit Warlord. This deck tries to ramp into its commander quickly and then wins with Helm of the Host to create infinite combat steps. Tyler's opening hand contains a Cursed Mirror, Ancient Tomb, Ricochet Trap, Eidolon of the Great Revel, Heat Shimmer, Grim Monolith, and a Chrome Mox. Finally, we have Corey, piloting Zur the Enchanter. This is an Esper control deck that uses Zur to find answers to problems on the battlefield. Corey's opening hand contains a Gemstone Caverns, Dark Ritual, Esper Sentinel, Arcane Signet, Cyclonic Rift, Opposition Agent, and a Ghostly Pilferer. Without further ado, let's kick off this elite, electrifying, extravagant event. Everett wins the tightrope walk and gets to start us off. But Corey has a pre-game action, putting Gemstone Caverns onto the battlefield, exiling Cyclonic Rift. Everett draws for turn and plays an Arid Mesa. He passes. Alex draws and plays a Flooded Strand. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Breeding Pool onto the battlefield untapped, paying 2 life. He casts a Mana Vault. He ships the turn to Tyler. Tyler draws and plays an Ancient Tomb. He casts Chrome Mox, imprinting Eidolon of the Great Revel. He taps his Ancient Tomb to help cast Grim Monolith. He casts a Manifold Key. He activates the key and untaps Grim Monolith. Tyler passes. At the end of Tyler's turn, Corey casts Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. He flashes in an Opposition Agent. In response, Everett cracks his Arid Mesa, pays a life, and fetches up a Badlands onto the battlefield. He casts Vampiric Tutor. He fetches up a card onto the top of his library and loses 2 life. Opposition Agent resolves and the turn moves to Corey. Corey draws and casts a Soul Ring. He casts an Arcane Signet. He casts an Esper Sentinel. He moves to combat and attacks Tyler with Opposition Agent. Tyler takes it and Corey ends his turn. Everett draws and casts a Skirk Prospector. He gives the turn to Alex. Alex draws and plays a Spire Garden. He casts his commander, Pako, Arcane Retriever. He moves to combat and attacks Tyler with Pako. Pako triggers and Alex exiles a Talisman of Curiosity, Tyler exiles a Cryptic Trilobite, Corey exiles a Felwar Stone, and Everett exiles an Angel's Grace. Pako then gets 3+1/+1 counters and Tyler takes 6. Alex gives the turn to Tyler. Tyler draws, takes no actions, and passes. Corey draws and casts a Ghostly Pilferer. He moves to combat, attacking Tyler with Esper Sentinel and Everett with Opposition Agent. Both players take it, and Corey ships the turn. Everett draws and then sacrifices Skirk Prospector, adding a red. He casts Dockside Extortionist. It enters and he creates 7 treasures. He casts Ad Nauseam. Esper Sentinel triggers and Corey draws. With no answers, Ad Naus resolves. Everett reveals a Chrome Mox, Praetor's Grasp, Talisman of Indulgence, Dualcaster Mage, Mox Opal, Manifold Key, City of Brass, Kuldotha Rebirth, Mana Confluence, Luxury Suite, Lion's Eye Diamond, Imperial Seal, Bloodstained Mire, Goblin Engineer, Calling the Weak, Sensei's Divining Top, Polluted Delta, Soul Ring, Rite of Flame, March of Otherworldly Light, Wishclaw Talisman, Mana Vault, Wheel of Fortune, Portable Hole, and a Sacrifice, deciding to stop there. He casts Chrome Mox, imprinting Goblin Engineer. He casts Rite of Flame, adding 2 red. He casts a Soul Ring. He casts a Mana Vault. He casts March of Otherworldly Light, exiling a white card targeting Opposition Agent. In response, Alex casts Deflecting Swat for its alternate cost, targeting March. Esper triggers and Corey draws. In response, Everett casts Culling the Weak, sacrificing Dockside as an additional cost, adding 4 black. Then Deflecting Swat resolves, changing the target to Esper Sentinel. March resolves, exiling Sentinel. Next, Everett casts Praetor's Grasp, targeting Alex. He fetches up a card from Alex's library into exile face down. He casts Underworld Breach through Praetor's Grasp. Ghostly Pilferer triggers and Corey draws. Underworld Breach resolves and Everett escapes Dockside Extortionist. Pilferer triggers and Corey draws. Dockside enters and Everett creates 6 treasures. He casts Dragon's Rage Channeler. He casts Mox Opal. Channeler triggers and Everett surveils Diabolic Intent into his graveyard. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond. Channeler triggers again and he surveils Orm's Chant into his graveyard. He casts Manifold Key, surveilling Necromancy into his graveyard. He activates Key, untapping his Mana Vault. He escapes Sacrifice, sacrificing Dockside as an additional cost. Pilferer triggers and Corey draws. Channeler triggers and Everett surveils Underworld Breach into his graveyard. Then Everett adds 2 black. Everett escapes Dockside Extortionist. Pilferer triggers and Corey draws. Dockside enters and Everett creates 6 more treasures. He casts Sensei's Divining Top, surveilling Marsh Flats through Channeler. He activates Top, looking at and rearranging the top 3. He escapes March of Otherworldly Light, targeting Opposition Agent. Channeler and Pilferer trigger. Corey draws through Pilferer, and in response to Channeler, Tyler hard casts Ricochet Trap, targeting March. In response, Everett flashes in a Dualcaster Mage. Dualcaster enters and copies Ricochet Trap. Ricochet Trap resolves, redirecting the original Ricochet Trap to the copy. Then the original trap fizzles, Everett surveils Plateau, then Op Agent is exiled through March. Everett casts Wishclaw Talisman, surveilling Mausoleum Secrets. He cracks his LED, discards his hand, and adds 3 red. He escapes Culling the Weak, sacrificing Dockside as an additional cost. Channeler and Pilferer trigger, Corey draws, and then Everett surveils Gemstone Caverns into his graveyard. Then Culling resolves, and Everett adds 4 black. Everett escapes Dockside, Corey draws, and then he creates 6 treasures. He activates Wishclaw Talisman, fetching up a card into his hand and giving Wishclaw to Tyler. He casts Grand Abolisher. In response, Corey casts Brainstorm. He draws 3 and puts 2 back on top. Grand Abolisher resolves, and Everett escapes Culling the Weak, sacrificing Dualcaster Mage as an additional cost. Corey draws, Everett surveils Dothy Voidwalker, then adds 4 black. He escapes Diabolic Intent, sacrificing Dockside as an additional cost. Corey draws, and Everett surveils Savine's Reclamation. Diabolic Intent resolves, and Everett fetches up a card into his hand. He escapes Praetor's Grasp, targeting Alex. Pilferer triggers, and in response, Everett holds priority and casts Saw in Half, targeting Dragon's Rage Channeler. Still holding priority, he escapes Dualcaster Mage. Pilferer triggers, and Corey draws. Dualcaster resolves and targets Saw in Half. Saw in Half gets copied, targeting Dualcaster. Then Saw in Half resolves, creating 2 copies of Dualcaster Mage. Both enter and trigger. One targets Saw in Half, and the other targets Praetor's Grasp. Everett presents a loop of creating multiple Dualcaster Mages through Saw in Half, then using the copies of Praetor's Grasp to exile cards from his opponent's libraries. He does this over and over until each opponent's library is completely exiled. He passes, sacrificing Underworld Breach. One by one, each opponent attempts to draw from an empty library, loses, and Everett wins the game. What an explosive win from Everett. The team wanted another, so they win again. In this game, Alex brings back Pako and Haldan. His opening hand contains a Taiga, Mental Misstep, Lion's Eye Diamond, Training Grounds, Forest, Noxious Revival, and a Flusterstorm. Tyler brings back Godo, and his opening hand contains a Buried Ruin, Ancient Tomb, 2 Mountains, Goblin Matron, Blasphemous Act, and an Imperial Recruiter. Corey brings back Zur, and his opening hand contains a Gilded Drake, Vault of Champions, Mystic Remora, Lightning Greaves, and his London Mulligans are Pact of Negation, Grand Abolisher, and Blind Obedience. Everett brings back Kaalia, and his opening hand contains a Flooded Strand, Mox Opal, Esper Sentinel, Culling the Weak, Talisman of Hierarchy, Opposition Agent, and a Necropotence. And Alex gets to start us off. Alex draws and plays a Windswept Heath. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Breeding Pool onto the battlefield tapped. He casts a Lion's Eye Diamond. He passes the turn. Tyler draws and plays an Ancient Tomb. He ships the turn to Corey. Corey draws and plays an Underground Sea. He casts Mystic Remora. In response, Alex pays 2 life to cast Mental Misstep, countering Mystic Remora. Corey ends his turn. Everett draws and plays a Flooded Strand. He casts Mox Opal. He cracks his Flooded Strand, pays a life, and fetches up a Scrubland onto the battlefield. He casts Esper Sentinel. He gives the turn to Alex. Alex draws and plays a Training Center. He ships the turn. Tyler draws and plays a Mountain. He taps his Ancient Tomb to cast Imperial Recruiter. It enters, and Tyler fetches up a Treasonous Ogre into his hand. He passes. Corey draws and plays a Vault of Champions. He casts Gilded Drake. Drake enters and exchanges control of Esper Sentinel. Corey ends the turn. Everett draws and casts a Mana Vault. Esper Sentinel triggers, and Corey draws. He casts Talisman of Hierarchy. He taps his Talisman to help cast Ranger Captain of Eos. It enters, and he fetches up a Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, into his hand. He moves to combat, attacking Tyler with his Gilded Drake. Tyler takes it, and Everett passes the turn. Alex draws and plays a Taiga. He casts his commander, Haldan, Avid Arcanist. He gives the turn to Tyler. Tyler draws and plays a Mountain. He taps his Ancient Tomb to help cast Treasonous Ogre. He activates Treasonous Ogre 6 times, paying 18 life, adding 6 red. He casts his commander, Godo, Bandit Warlord. Godo enters, and Tyler fetches up a Helm of the Host onto the battlefield. He activates Treasonous Ogre 2 times, paying 6 life, adding 2 red. He casts Desperate Ritual. Esper triggers and Corey draws. In response, Corey casts Force of Will, paying a life, exiling a blue card, countering Desperate Ritual. Tyler casts Mox Opal and, unfortunately, has to pass the turn. Corey draws and casts Mox Diamond, discarding a Polluted Delta. He casts a Lightning Greaves. He gives the turn to Everett. During his draw step, Everett takes the damage from his Mana Ball. In his main phase, he casts Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. He casts Culling the Weak, sacrificing Gilded Drake as an additional cost. Esper triggers and Corey draws. Culling resolves and Everett adds 4 black. He casts Necropotence. He activates Necropotence 10 times, paying 10 life, exiling 10 cards. He moves to his end step and puts the exiled cards into his hand. He passes, discarding to hand size, exiling the discarded card. Alex draws and plays a Waterlogged Grove. He casts Jessica's Will with both modes targeting Everett. Esper triggers and Corey draws. In response, Everett taps his Talisman to help cast Silence. Esper triggers and Corey draws again. Unfortunately, Silence resolves, locking out opponents this turn. Then Jessica's Will resolves, Alex adds 6 red, and then exiles Mindbreak Trap, Chrome Mox, and Dispel. Unable to cast any spells, Alex ships the turn. Tyler draws and wonder how he got this far. He plays a Command Beacon for turn. He taps his Ancient Tomb to equip Helm of the Host to Godo. He moves to combat, copying Godo, getting infinite combat steps, attacks each opponent until they are dead, and Tyler wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing set of games tonight. Congrats to Everett and Tyler on their wins. In Game 1, Everett resolved a quick ad nauseum while everyone else was still developing. He fought through interaction, found his line, and closed out the game in pretty cool fashion. In Game 2, Tyler cast an early Treasonous Ogre and used it to combo off even after getting stopped by Corey. The most valuable card in tonight's game, sponsored by Luxury Playstyle, goes to Praetor's Grasp. This card not only allowed Everett to find the combo pieces he needed, but he also used it inside of a dual caster loop to exile everyone's libraries. You can always count on this card to find extra copies of the things you need or disrupt a key piece of an opponent's strategy. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Tune in next time when we duke it out to see who will be king of the competitive EDH table. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.